If you're bleeding out and you go into the emergency room, they're not going to come talk to you about a healthier diet plan and what kind of baked chicken you're eating. They're not, no, bro. They're trying to stop the bleeding. They're trying to stop you from dying, right? And so, see, your success is dying. Your self-confidence is dying because all you're doing is you're operating in the negative. So the first thing we got to do is we got to stop the bleeding. Meaning you don't get anything worse, nothing worse. But it doesn't mean that I don't get productively better, but just small. Because I gotta go, number one, you gotta psychologically let yourself off the hook. I'm not gonna make it any worse. And I don't beat myself up because I don't get the results that I needed. I gotta get to this weight. I gotta get back to what I once was. No, I need you to get from -1 to 0. Once we can get you to base camp, once we can get you to 0, then we can add from there, man. Be sure, and also, man, do me a favor. Your vote counts. I need you to power this show. And do that by not only you subscribing, but share this episode with someone else. Say, you know what? Once you get this, if you find some value in this episode, man, why don't you subscribe to the Sales Life? And Sales Life is just not for those in the sales profession. It's those for those who are building the life skills of selling. So what we rocked off with singing karaoke, man, was about being average. And I know, dude, you're probably looking at the title and you're saying, dude, why in the world would I want to be average? I get the fact, man, that you want to be great, but you're not there yet. You're not at great. And I do believe in playing to the image that you want to see. And that is necessary. But right now, we gotta build your averages. Because the truth of the matter is you've probably fallen asleep at the wheel. Meaning that you don't look like you once did. You don't produce like you once did. And it's frustrating for you. And part of the reason being is all you're doing is if I walked up to you, you just talk about what you once were and how you once lived. And I'm not interested in that. I'm really not concerned with what once was. I do know that you have a once more, which is today. And so you've got to stop the bleeding. And because everything that you do, when you talk about what you once used to do, how you once looked, what size dress or pants you once wore, all you're doing is you're building even more negatives. So any subsequent failure that you have aligns with the ongoing narrative that you have, and you're bleeding out even more. So you want to be great, but you're not even average. And the average is the consistency. And you're up and down, and the reason being is because you're looking at someone else's physique, you're looking at someone else's results, who does 4 times, 5 times the amount that you do, 100 times what you do. And because you're trying to keep up with them at their pace, it seems impossible. And then that's when you give up. And you just feel like the cards aren't meant to be, right? Stuff gets frustrating. I totally get it. Because you look at your results right now and you're like, why did I let myself? When did I let myself go? What happened? I mean, I'm barely scraping to make ends meet. I mean, what happened? And then you beat yourself up for what you bought, what you've invested in, the vacations you took, the grills you bought, I mean, whatever, and all the food you ate, and you look at your results today, and all you're doing is accepting what is. So it seems too far. And the impossibility, where you once were, let alone where they are, It seems impossible. And you're like, bro, there's no way. So you know that great is out there. You know what's possible. And you know because you were like at the doorstep of the promised land, right? And you let yourself go. Events arose, something happened, whatever. But what we got to do is we got to stop the bleeding. We have to stop the bleeding because right now, dude, everything that you do, you're working in the negatives. And so here's what normally happens. So you're at a -1, -2, okay? And so one day you take stock in that and you say, no more, no more. So on Monday, you're at a -1. On Tuesday, you do something productive. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. So you do something productive. On Wednesday, man, it's just, you kind of feel good. I had a good day yesterday, so let me celebrate. So then you go back and you do something and you gave all your production back. A 1-day production, a 2-day production, a 1-week production. And so you went from a -1 to maybe like a -0.5. But then that Wednesday, you did something that added a -2 to it. So now you're at a -2.5. And then the next day, you may add another -1. And before you know it, man, you're like at a -8. And you're inconsistent. You're stopping and starting. Because number one, you're comparing yourself to great. And number two, you're not stopping the bleeding. So the first thing we got to do, man, is we got to go from a -1 to a 0. And we got to stop the bleeding. And so I'm not really worried right now about the physical results. I got to get your mental results first. First thing you got to do is shut up. And stop talking about what you once were, how you once lived. None of that matters. There's more available. That little thing that you're talking about, that was good compared to where you are now. It's great. But there's way better for you. But you got to stop the bleeding first, man. And the way that you're going to do that is, see, the first thing you got to do is don't make things worse. Don't make things worse. So don't give any of your results back. So if you stop the bleeding, look, when you go, if you're bleeding out and you go into the emergency room, they're not going to come talk to you about a healthier diet plan and what kind of baked chicken you're eating. They're not, no, bro, they're trying to stop the bleeding. They're trying to stop you from dying, right? And so, see, your success is dying. Your self-confidence is dying because all you're doing is you're operating in the negative. So the first thing we got to do is we got to stop the bleeding, meaning you don't get anything worse, nothing worse. But it doesn't mean that I don't get productively better, but just small. Because I got to go, number one, you got to psychologically let yourself off the hook. I'm not going to make it any worse. And I don't beat myself up because I don't get the results that I needed. I got to get to this weight. I got to get back to what I once was. No, I need you to get from -1 to 0. Once we can get you to base camp, once we can get you to 0, then we can add from there, man. So like for me, let's relate it to food. And you can swap the analogy out for anything. So for me, the first thing I had to do, man, is I couldn't make for me to lose weight, I had to be able to sit and smell the fried food, the boudin, all these I have to be able to sit in there and not act upon it. And so that meant that I had to draw a line in the sand and say, no cheat days. Because I knew I had a taste for it. And if I continued to reinforce the taste, I would always have a reason. So Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, I would have a good day. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I would give all the results back. And Monday, I was always starting over. I was tired of that. So you got to draw the line in the sand, no cheat days, and I don't make the situation worse. Meaning, no, I'm not going to eat that. I'm good. And then I productively bust a sweat every single day. See, what I'm doing is I'm not making the situation worse. I'm not trying to get to great. And then what I work every single day is I just got to build the averages in. Same thing in sales, man. Don't make your situation worse by letting your emotions yank you all around. So, and don't compare yourself to a 40 car guy, okay? And you're banging around 12, 15, okay? Be average first. So what you've got to do is stop making because you'll be at 15, then you'll be at 20, then you'll be at 5. See, because you're all over the place. Because what you're doing is you're not average. Build your averages first. Build your consistency. Don't make things worse. Hit your buckets of, I have to hit this many people this many times. Okay, work with these many people, make this many calls. Build those averages. And then once you can build the averages in, then I can layer in a little bit more. Then I can add a little bit more weight. But the first thing, dude, you got to be able to stop the bleeding. For me, it was, I don't have the smells and of wanting that food. And because I didn't act on that, I built up the confidence. I just proved to myself that I can sit in there and not die. And then also I don't beat myself up, because that's the problem too. We go back, we act on it in the short term, we get instant pleasure, and then we spend hours and hours and hours beating ourselves up for what we did. Just don't do it. Don't do it. And it cauterizes it. It makes it no worse. And then I work on getting better on the way to being great. And so then I don't have to work in the negative, because I'm not making the situation even worse. Then what I'm doing is I do small things every single day to build those averages consistently. And the beautiful thing about it is I'm not building negative consistency of saying, oh, I got to make up for Monday and Tuesday. No, I don't have to. I don't have to make up for any days. Now all I have to do is build those days from there. Like for me, man, in the mornings, I build my averages. 4:30 in the morning, that's what I have. If I'm gonna do the podcast every single day, that's what I gotta do. I have my coffee, I have my 8 minutes of quiet time, I write, and then I go live. That's my averages. That's my averages. I can't be Mr. Great right now. I gotta build the averages. Once I build the averages, now I can start working on more. The YouTube channel, the writing of the blog, those kind of different things, the marketing of the podcast. I can work on those things. I can work on that once I build the averages in. The averages, I had to build in 500 podcasts first. Then I can add from there. See, keep this in mind. You have to lay the tracks before you can run your train. And oftentimes we want to run the train with no tracks. Lay your tracks down, okay? Don't make the situation any worse. Don't worry about being great. Just don't get worse. And then build from there. And be average on the way to being great. All right, so let's put some bullets in your gun. Number one, stop talking about what you once were, how you once lived. We don't care. That's great. Let's see what you got now. Let's see how you can get gooder, how you can get better, all right? And then also, where is it that you're gonna stop the bleeding, okay? What's the one thing that you're gonna stop? This is where I bleed out every time, okay? It could be from your speech, it could be from your actions. I'm gonna stop the bleeding. And then, where's your base camp? -1, here's my 0, I gotta get to that. Be average. Then we'll see your greatness. All right? Remember, never settle. Keep selling your way through life. Hey, thanks for joining. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Sales Life. But do not go anywhere, man. We're just getting started. I got another special episode queued up right now. Just